trade. They are in this with Rodgers. We think they are in it for the next 2 years. I would imagine, quickly, Joe, do you think Davante's going to be here for the next 2 years? Because I do.
I think so. I think you saw two guys today buddying up who are planning to play the rest of the season and next season together.
Exactly. So now you have, what is your offense? Your offense for the next 2 years is Rodgers, a year and a half. Rodgers, Davante, Garrett Wilson. A lot of this offensive line, counting Olu, if you count Olu in it, this is probably the offensive line. I'd like to see Morgan Moses back next year. Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. And that's good enough. That's enough. That's good enough. So the move, I would do the move. I don't think he's going to be an all-pro, so I don't think it's a second rounder. We could act like that doesn't exist, those conditions. So a third-round pick. They had 2 third-round picks because, remember, they got an extra one in last year's draft, which was a good move. And now you have Davante Adams, and now you're going to try to get this offense rolling. You just have to ask yourself, this isn't a, chips are all in on this year. It is partially, but it also, this has to do with next year as well. So that's why for a third rounder, I'm fine paying that price. I think the Jets offense is going to be fine this year, by the way. I don't expect us to log on here many times like we did after the Broncos game and go, man, they had no answer. I think the offense is going to be relatively fine. My biggest concern is I think it's very hard to win football games in the NFL, especially at a higher level, when your defensive front is not competitive. And then it makes it even harder when you just don't do simple things like making kicks and untimely penalties. So I like the Adams trade. I think people are struggling to evaluate it separately from the Jets' flaws right now. And at the end of the day, I want Joe Douglas to improve this team. I want the Jets to win games this year. This is a way to improve this team. That doesn't mean go sit on your hands and watch the games the rest of the year. Start digging around some rosters and find somebody that can freaking two-gap and play play against the run, right? Like, these trades happen, by the way. I know everybody thinks, oh, this is the roster. No, you can go out there for a day 3 pick and get somebody that can give you 20 snaps against the run, because that's where the Jets are at right now. Like, that's the bar, is who can give them 20 snaps against the run. I have no idea what happens with Haason Reddick. My goodness, this situation is just just rolling away.
I feel like he's going to play here. That's my guess.
I actually I don't think he has any other option at this point. And I think Rosenhaus is going to be like, listen, nobody is out there this is how it's going to go with Reddick. Nobody out there is trading for him and giving him a multi-year contract. Okay, let's just make this abundantly clear. Like, nobody is doing that. Nobody wanted to do that in June or whenever it was, March, April. Nobody wants to do that now. So are there teams out there that for a 6th-round pick would love him as a hired gun because, the Lions lost Aiden Hutchinson and things like that? Yeah, sure. But why would the Jets do that? Number one, that doesn't make any sense for the Jets. So if they just kind of stand their ground, he's got to show up, accrue a season. He would help a lot right now. Let me tell you that. Haason Reddick would help a lot. So we'll see where that one goes. But I would be trying to find a cost-effective two-gapping presence to play next to Quinnen and stop the run. And then you could look at this and go, okay, we traded for Davante Adams for this next year and a half. We got some help on the defensive line to stop the run. We're trying to be a middle-of-the-pack run defense, and we're going to score points, and we're going to be competitive. And can you turn it around, make the playoffs this year, and give yourself some momentum into next year? And I know some people are listening. You're insane. How do you talk yourself into these things over and over again? But the reality is this is what we have right now, and this is what the Jets have, and they got to find a way.
Yeah, I mean, look, these aren't completely unsolvable problems. They solved one today by getting Adams at a minimal cost. They
didn't cost a second
pass catcher. Yeah, particularly in clutch, close moments. They needed Davante, they needed a guy who could score touchdowns. They need more people who could hit the quarterback. I think they'll ultimately get Reddick within a week or two. And, I think he's suited up by the Pats or the Texans game for better or worse. And I think it'll be for better because Will McDonald needs help up front getting after the quarterback. And kick around, get a Quentin Jefferson or a Quentin Jefferson type to come in here and chew up some reps, give Leonard Taylor more action. And you're going to be in more close games. The Jets look at the line for next week. I think they're like 1-point underdogs, or it's like a pick 'em.
I think they might have moved to being the point favorite.
This is going to be a recurring theme. And again, I'm not saying Vegas always knows all these things, but they're going to be favorites in that game. They're going to be favorites against the Pats. They'll be underdogs against Houston, who's one of the best teams in the league. They'll be favorites against Cardinals, Colts, depending what happens with Tua, maybe the Dolphins, the Jaguars. They're going to be around and in these games. It's, do they know how to win? And can they get over the hump? And it's a scare. I think it gets in a team's head when they start losing so many close games. And this is what Rodgers is supposed to be sort of the solve for. Like, he's been there before.
Right.
He's a Hall of Famer. Like, you feel good because he's got the ball in his hands late. And you could say, look, like it's not on him against Denver. He set up Zerline for a field goal and Garrett wasn't on the same page. Gibson wasn't on the same page. It's not on him last night because Mike Williams ran the wrong route and the refs were completely insane. I can live with those two. The Vikings game, he missed Garrett Wilson for the game-winning touchdown. He's got to, and maybe it's in prime time again on Sunday night, he's got to have that moment where it's 17-13 Pittsburgh and the Jets go 70 yards and score a game-winning touchdown and win. And that is the kind of thing that changes the feel that, hey, we can win a close game. And we're going to be in a lot of close games, and we're confident we could steal a few and hover around 500, and maybe a couple things break our way. But I don't blame Jet fans for not being optimistic about any of that. It's hard to say, yeah, they're going to go into Pittsburgh and win. Now, with how Pittsburgh is, could they do it? Sure. Do I think it's going to be a close game? Sure. Is any Jet fan going to feel confident in a close fourth quarter right now? No. And they've given us no reason to. But it's been a goddamn hell of a 7 days. CR, any final thoughts? We're going to jump over, record War Room, and talk a little more nitty-gritty on the roster and answer your guys' questions.
Yeah, one more bit of breaking news while we're sitting here recording. The Jets have reworked Adams' deal for this year. So his cap number is $3.21 million. All right, let's do the two things with this. The good news is that's a really low number for this year. They'll figure out his salary. Like I said, I think he's going to be here next year. They'll figure out that in the offseason, and when that time comes, you have to make sure that, one, Rodgers doesn't surprise retire and all these things, and they'll figure out that when I think Davante will be here next year. But for now, his cap number is down to $3.21 million because they added 2 void years to his deal, which I'll get to in a second. That tells me, with how low they kept this cap number, one, they're still being careful with their cap, knowing when Reddick comes back, that's going to add money onto the cap. Yep. If Reddick comes back. If he doesn't come back, they still need to make a move to add to this defensive line, and that player could be making, $3 million, $5 million. I know a lot of people are looking at Clowney and Carolina, just in general, some kind of body that is a viable NFL run defender. So that's a lot of flexibility with the cap right now, which tells me they are not done. Now to the other side of this, and if you
see Woody's interview today, he's not done. He's just flying off the handle. He's going crazy right now.
Hey, really, Woody has been at the poker table at the Bellagio with a pack of Marlboro Reds, and it's 4 a.m. and he just keeps pushing the chips in and ordering another whiskey Coke.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever. So that makes all of this interesting right now. In 2026, like, winter is coming for the Jets. Oh, yeah. Joe and I will be here for it because we've done this multiple times.
We have PhDs in the winter.
Yeah. But I will tell you right now, everybody, get your parka if you're in it to win it. If you walk away from being a Jets fan, it is what it is. But 2026, like, we could see this ripped out from the studs where the Jets are going to have void year. They're going to have millions and millions of dollars in void years that they're just eating. They might be down some picks, or they might be making some interesting decisions, especially if Douglas isn't here anymore and they're, they have to trade somebody they're not going to extend like they did with Jamal Adams. Winter is coming in 2026. And if you love team building like I do, and Joe and I love misery together, like it'll be interesting because they really will be changing this entire organization. That time is coming. So what I will recommend is, before we enter that period, let's enjoy this year and a half. Let's see what happens. Let's hopefully the Jets can give us reasons to enjoy it. And once again, no half measures. Like, don't be cowards. Like, add on to this thing, fix your problems, give Ulbrich and these guys a chance. I think this offense is showing you they could do enough. The Bills are the best team in the division, and the Jets should have beat them last night. There's nothing else I could say. There's nothing else I could say right now. The Jets should have beat them last night. And at the end of the day, horseshoes and hand grenades. But this season is very far from losing interest. It's going to be fascinating how these next couple weeks go.
It's always going to be interesting no matter what. So All right. Thank everyone for listening. Make sure you check out War Room on the feed tomorrow. Make sure you upgrade so you could enjoy all that sweet, sweet Discord chatter and questions. We're going to rip through those in War Room. We'll be back with more content leading into Jet Steelers, which kind of feels like it's here already somehow. Thank everyone for listening. I'll talk to you soon.